and welcome to Tabor Talk. So getting right into this, I did a video yesterday. I was talking about the Joe Rogan podcast. I felt a little frustrated because Joe always has repeat guests. If you go on Joe's podcast site and you look at the last dozen or so guests, all repeats, for except maybe one. I think the guy Andrew Doyle, he was a new guy. But basically Joe has had Brendan, like not the last dozen, but he has his friends on and repeat guests. And my video was about like Tom Papa again, right? So I'm finishing up on that podcast today with Tom Papa. And I got to say, it really is outstanding. It's good. It's funny. You know, Tom is funny and smart, and they're talking about interesting topics and all that. So not that I'm taking it back. I still think that Joe's podcast would be better if he gets more interesting, listen, I'm not going to say more interesting guests, but more variety. I know Joe turns away guests. Like, it's more than just your friends, Joe. It's more than just Tony Hinchcliffe and Brendan Schaub and Eddie Bravo and Bert Kreischer. I know them all. Bert Kreischer, Joey Diaz, and Duncan Trussell, and Tom Segura, all that, right? So, and Ari Shaffir, let's not forget him. I love these guys, and it's great, but man, come on. Some more interesting guests. I mean, the last month or so you've had, let's see, what about Robert Downey Jr. was on? That's interesting. I'm not calling for A-list people, but just mix it up a bit. And Joe's good. I'm not to be super critical. That's all. So I want to talk about this, really. Okay, so Joe, the figure, I posted something on Facebook about how many YouTube channels there are and how many podcasts and all that. And I was actually off. So Joe and Tom Papa were discussing how many podcasts there are. 900,000 now. The last I looked, it was 700. So now 900,000. Now here's where Joe gets sloppy and he fucks up. And you know, it's live. Actually, it's not live anymore, but it's kind of like what I do. I don't have a script or anything. I do these videos and then I throw it up on YouTube, like Joe. But yet Joe has I don't know how many followers, 10 million, 3 billion downloads. I have 232 subscribers. A little bit of a difference. But anyway, I digress. Maybe someday, who knows? Anyway, so 900,000 podcasts. And Joe says, what does that mean? There are 300 million people in this country. That means 1 out of 3 people have a podcast. No, Joe, you're off by 9. You're off by, what is it? 99, right? So it's one out of let me start again. 1 out of 3, you're off by 299. 1 out of 300, almost 1 out of 300 people in this country has a podcast. If there are 300 million people, 900,000, it's almost a million. Almost 1 in 300 people have a podcast. That's a fucking lot, right? You know, I mean, it's just crazy. So how do you get heard? How can you have a voice? And as Joe just says, man, look at me. You just grind and just put them out every day, which is what I try to do. And not that I'm ever going to be anything. I'm just having a good time here. But you know what I mean? Like it's like almost everybody. That's a fair statement. Almost everybody, 1 in 300 people in this country has a freaking podcast. That's insane. If you think about the let's say, old days, like radio stations or TV. Oh, the TV, 3 networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, and you're the one guy, let's say network news. If you're, I don't know, Peter Jennings or Tom Brokaw or Dan Rather at the time, and there you go, maybe at PBS. And radio, like Howard Stern always talks about terrestrial radio and satellite. And he hates the idea of podcasts because he thinks it's cheating. I'm like, dude, Howard, it's way fucking harder. Howard, if you started today, and let's say on podcasting, you'd never fucking make it. It's just almost impossible. It's way, way harder. All right. On that note, I'm almost 5 minutes. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding. Howard Tabor Talk.